Welcome back to Carrick United Analysis. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. This is the home for calm, clear, and honest breakdowns of everything happening at Manchester United under Michael Carrick. No panic, no wild guessing, just real information broken down in a simple way so every single fan can understand exactly what is going on with our club. If that sounds like your kind of channel, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and let us get into today's story, because it is one every United fan needs to understand properly. Manchester United fans, have you been wondering when your favorite players are actually coming back to Carrington? Because right now, our squad is scattered all over the map. Some players are already back on the training pitch, working hard under Michael Carrick. Others are still away, resting after a long and demanding World Cup campaign. If you are confused about who is coming back and when, do not worry, because today we are going to break down the entire return schedule, step by step, in the simplest way possible. Why United's preseason looks so different this summer. Let us start with the big picture, because this summer is not a normal summer for Manchester United, or for any club in world football, really. Every 4 years, the football calendar gets turned upside down by the World Cup. Instead of a normal, relaxed, close season where the entire squad returns together on one single date, clubs with international players have to deal with a staggered return. Some players come back early, others come back much later. And the reason for that difference comes down to one simple factor: how far their national team went in the tournament. This summer, Manchester United had a large group of players representing their countries at the 2026 World Cup. That is a huge honor for those players and for the club, but it also creates a real challenge for Michael Carrick as he tries to build fitness, structure, and understanding across the squad ahead of the new Premier League season. So how exactly does this staggered return process work? Let us break it down properly. The players who are already back at Carrington. Let us start with the good news, because a large group of players are already back on the training pitch working hard. Players who were not involved in the World Cup, whether because their country did not qualify or because they were not selected in their national squad, reported back to Carrington on July 9th. This group includes a mix of senior first-team players and academy talents, and they have already been through fitness assessments and the opening training sessions of the summer program. This early group has been building the foundation of United's preseason. They took part in the opening friendly of the summer against Wrexham in Helsinki, and they will continue to be the core of the squad as the club works through its full preseason fixture list across Europe. Why does this early return matter so much? Think about it from a coaching perspective. These are the players who will have the most training time under Carrick before the season begins. That means more time to understand his tactical ideas, more time to build fitness properly, and more time to develop understanding with new teammates. Some fringe players may even use this extra time to boost their chances of nailing down a regular spot in the team before the big names return. Doesn't that make you want to keep a close eye on how these early returners perform in the opening friendlies? Understanding the 3-week rest rule. Before we go through the rest of the return schedule, we need to understand one important rule that shapes everything about this process. Football governing bodies and club regulations require players to be given a minimum rest period after a major international tournament like the World Cup. This exists for one simple and very important reason: protecting players from burnout. Think about what these players have gone through. A full domestic season, followed immediately by weeks of intense international football at the highest level, with no real break in between. Without a mandatory rest period, players would be running on empty by the time the new season even begins, which massively increases the risk of injuries and poor form. This is why United, like every other club sending players to a major tournament, cannot simply demand their World Cup stars report back the day after they are eliminated. There has to be a proper recovery window, and that window depends directly on how far a player's country progressed in the competition. This brings us to the actual return schedule, broken down by how far each player's tournament journey went. Group stage exits, the earliest of the World Cup returners. Let us start with the players whose World Cup journey ended earliest, back in the group stage. When a country fails to make it out of the group stage, their World Cup involvement is over far sooner than teams that progress deep into the tournament. For Manchester United, this group includes players representing countries that were eliminated in the group phase back in late June. Because their tournament ended so much earlier, these players are able to complete their mandatory rest periods sooner, and they are expected to report back to training around July 20th to July 24th. This group matters a lot for Carrick's planning. These are experienced international players who competed at the very highest level of the sport. But their return timeline is closer to the earlier group of players, rather than the World Cup finalists. That means Carrick gets a good chunk of preseason time with them before the Premier League campaign begins, even though they miss the very opening weeks of training. If you have been wondering why certain familiar faces are already trickling back onto the training pitch earlier than expected, this group stage exit timeline is exactly why. Knockout stage exits, the middle group of returners. Next, let us talk about the players whose countries went further, reaching the round of 16 or the quarterfinals before being eliminated. This group represents a real middle tier in the return schedule. These players competed in more matches than the group stage exits, meaning they carried a heavier physical and mental load through the tournament, but their World Cup journey still ended before the closing stages. Following their elimination and the mandatory rest period that follows, this group is expected to rejoin the Manchester United squad between July 27th and July 31st. This is actually a really important group for United fans to pay attention to, because it includes some very significant first-team players. When players who were central to the team's performances last season head off to represent their countries, seeing them return with the club still relatively early in preseason is a real boost. It gives Carrick time to reintegrate his most important players properly, working them back up to full match fitness gradually rather than throwing them straight into high-intensity Premier League football with barely any preparation. Think about the difference this makes for team cohesion. A manager wants his key players sharing the training pitch together as much as possible before a new season starts, building understanding, sharpening partnerships, and getting used to any new tactical ideas. This knockout stage group gives Carrick a solid amount of that time. Semi-finalists and finalists, the latest returners of them all. Now we come to the group that will take the longest to return, and for very understandable reasons. Some Manchester United players were involved in their national team's campaigns all the way to the final stages of the World Cup, right up until the closing weekend of the tournament, which concluded on July 19th. These are players who represented their countries in the semi-finals, and potentially even in the third-place playoff or the grand final itself. Reaching that stage of a World Cup is an incredible achievement, both for the player and for the club that developed them. But it also means these players have played significantly more football than almost anyone else in the squad this summer, on top of already carrying a full domestic season in their legs beforehand. Because of that heavy workload, this group will be given extended time off, and they are expected to return to Manchester United around August 10th. This is a later return than any other group, but it makes complete sense when you think about player welfare. Asking a player who has just gone through a grueling run to a World Cup final or semi-final to report back to intense preseason training within days simply is not realistic or safe. Their bodies need proper recovery time, and Manchester United, like every sensible football club, understands and respects that process. For fans, this means some of our most exciting talents will only join full training a little over a week before the Premier League season gets fully underway. That is something worth being patient and understanding about, even if we are desperate to see them back in a United shirt. Why the return dates matter so much for Carrick's planning. Let us zoom out for a moment and think about why all of this matters so much from a coaching and management perspective. Michael Carrick is trying to build a squad capable of competing on every front this season, and preseason is where the real foundation of that gets built. Fitness levels, tactical understanding, team shape, and squad chemistry all take real time to develop properly. A staggered return schedule like this one makes that process much more complicated than a normal summer. Think about it from Carrick's point of view. He cannot simply wait for every single player to be available before starting proper tactical work. Instead, he has to build fitness and basic structure with the players who are available early, while gradually integrating more players as they return in waves throughout July and into August. This is actually a smart and pragmatic approach, even if it is not ideal. By focusing on fitness and simple systems early with the available squad, and then phasing in higher intensity tactical work as more players return, Carrick reduces the risk of rushing players back too quickly and picking up unnecessary injuries. The trade-off, of course, is that the full squad has less time working together as one unit before the season truly begins. Doesn't that make the opening weeks of the Premier League season feel even more important to watch closely, as the team gradually comes together at full strength? The preseason fixture list and how it fits into all of this, it is worth remembering that all of this staggered return activity is happening alongside a full preseason fixture schedule. United's summer program includes a series of friendly matches across Europe, giving Carrick multiple opportunities to assess his squad in live match conditions before the real action begins. The early fixtures in this schedule will naturally be shaped by the players available at that point, mostly the early returners and the group stage exits. As the summer progresses and more players filter back in from the knockout stages, the quality and familiarity of the starting lineups should steadily increase. By the time the final preseason friendlies come around, closer to the middle of August, Carrick should have the vast majority of his squad available, including many of the semi-finalists and finalists who return around August 10th. This gives him a short but valuable window to bring the full squad together, fine-tune his systems, and get his most important players up to match play sharpness before the competitive season begins. This is exactly why the final couple of preseason friendlies often carry extra importance during a World Cup summer. They represent the only real chance for a fully assembled squad to train and play together before facing real Premier League opposition. What this means for the opening weeks of the season. Now here is a question every United fan should be thinking about. What does this staggered return actually mean for how the team performs in the opening weeks of the new Premier League campaign? History has shown us, in past World Cup summers across football, that teams with a large number of players involved in the tournament, especially those who go deep into the competition, often need a little extra time to hit their best form once the new season begins. This is simply because those key players have had less traditional preseason training compared to a normal summer, even with the club managing the situation carefully. For Manchester United fans, this means showing a bit of extra patience during the opening rounds of fixtures. If certain players who went deep into the World Cup look a little short of full sharpness in the season's early weeks, that is not a reason to panic. It is a natural consequence of the demanding stretch of football they have just been through, and it usually improves quickly once those players settle back into a normal training and match rhythm with the club. Understanding this context in advance should help set realistic expectations, rather than reacting with frustration if results or performances are not immediately perfect in August. Why this summer's schedule is actually a positive sign. Here is an interesting way to look at this entire situation. In many ways, having a large number of players away at the World Cup, especially those who progress to the later stages, is actually a very positive reflection of the quality within our squad. Think about it. These players were selected by their national team managers because they are considered among the best in their positions in world football. Being called up for such an important tournament and performing well enough to keep your place through several rounds of knockout football says a great deal about the individual quality present in this Manchester United squad. So while the staggered return creates real challenges for preseason planning, it also serves as a reminder of just how much talent is spread across our squad right now. That is something every fan should take real pride in, even while we wait patiently for the full group to reassemble. How fans should approach this waiting period. So how should we as supporters handle this staggered return period? I think the smartest approach is simple. Patience combined with genuine excitement. There is no need to worry about players missing the very earliest days of preseason training. This is a carefully managed process, built around player welfare and smart long-term planning, not a sign of disorganization or a lack of ambition from the club. Every top-level club dealing with a heavy World Cup presence is managing a very similar situation this summer. Instead of worrying, use this time to enjoy watching the early returners fight for their place in the team during the opening friendlies. Keep an eye on the calendar for when the knockout stage group starts trickling back toward the end of July, and circle early August as the moment when our most decorated World Cup travelers finally return to Carrington, ready to complete the squad ahead of the new campaign. Final thoughts before we wrap up. So there we have it, Manchester United family, the full breakdown of how our World Cup travelers will be returning to Carrington this summer. Early returners already back and building fitness since July 9th. Group stage exits arriving between July 20th and July 24th. Knockout stage exits following between July 27th and July 31st. And our semi-finalists and finalists, who gave everything for their countries on the biggest stage in football, returning around August 10th, just in time to prepare for the new Premier League season. This staggered process might feel complicated at times, but it exists for one very good reason. Protecting the fitness and long-term well-being of the players who represent this great club. Once the full squad is finally back together, Carrick will have his complete group available to build the kind of team we all want to see competing at the very top of English and European football this season. Let me leave you with one final question before we close today's video. Which returning World Cup player are you most excited to see back in a Manchester United shirt this preseason? Drop your answer down in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love seeing which names get this community most excited. Thank you so much for watching today. If this breakdown helped you understand exactly what is happening with our squad this summer, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and share this video with a fellow United fan who has been asking when their favorite player is finally coming home. This channel only grows because of supporters exactly like you, and every single one of you watching is part of what makes Carrick United Analysis a trusted home for honest, reliable Manchester United coverage. Until the next video, stay patient, stay excited, and get ready for the full squad to come together. Come on, United.